Hey, ladies. Okay, first of all, it is late. And I'm wearing a hat and I don't even, yeah, anyway. But we had church. We have a Thursday night church service. And then I went running with my sister inside, not outside in the dark. So that's partly why, that's why I have the hat on and everything. But this message that we heard tonight was just so strong. And I was like, maybe I'll get on and share it later. Hey, Joy. Okay, cool. Somebody's awake still. I was like, I don't even know if anyone's going to catch this live because it's late. But it was just so big on my heart that I was about to get in the shower and go to bed. And I was like, I can't, I just have to share this tonight because it touched me so much. And it was crazy. I told my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, Ross, this message is exactly like what we have been talking about this week in the group. So, hey, Lisa. Hey, girl. For some reason, my contacts are kind of messed up too. So I'm reading the names as they're coming on. Okay. Anyway, let's get to the message because I can go on and ramble. Oh, you're up nursing, Gracelyn. Oh, well, she's so cute, girl. She's so cute. Thank you for that too, and the hat. I love wearing hats. Okay. So, this week, a lot of the message was around how do we feel peace when things around us do not feel peaceful? Maybe you're in a lot of transition in your life. Maybe you're going through, you've gotten news of a diagnosis, or maybe someone you love has gotten a diagnosis that's been hard to handle. Or maybe you're just you just kind of feel like you're in that season where you're like, I feel like I'm just here. I feel like I'm just existing. I don't know that I'm living out my purpose or my calling. So whatever it is that's going on in your life around you that might be stripping you of peace, I just felt like this message that we heard tonight at church was so good. Part of me was almost like, let me just share this sermon in here, but I'm going to put the Miriam style to it and add to that. Hey, Amanda. So again, the action step that we had talked about for this week was, reflecting on a time in your life where maybe you were walking through a hard season and hopefully you really saw God's goodness and the good that came from that. But sometimes sometimes the good is just that you got through it and you made it to the other side. But I would like to bet that probably more times than not, you really did see where a situation that you just could not understand, why am I going through this right now, God? Why, where you really, really saw that he used it for a really, really awesome purpose later. And so that's kind of what I was, seeing here. And Joy, you said you just chatted with a friend today who's having health issues with her heart. Yeah. And, especially as a friends, just it's in our nature, I think, as women, we're nurturing for the most part, right? It's just, it can be so easy to take on the weights of what's going on around us, whether it directly affects us or not. Sometimes we can make it feel like it directly affects us because we care so deeply for those that are around us too. Hey, Tara, I knew you were awake because you text me. Anyway, the story that we talked about in church tonight, we've been doing a series on anxiety and depression. And so it was kind of funny, the timing of it. I did not know this was going to be the message that we shared at church as I was doing this group, but it just went so hand in hand. And tonight it was talking about Jeremiah when he was in the pit, and just we went through Lamentations 3. And I just couldn't help but think this is exactly what we're focusing in on this week. And so for those of you that aren't really familiar with that story, so Jeremiah was a prophet. He prophesied, he had the gift of prophecy. He prophesied and was doing God's work. And he faced a lot of persecution because of that. And so, which that in itself should be reassuring for us, right? That, walking in obedience and doing those things that God's called us to sometimes isn't going to get the approval of everybody around us, right? But he knew that God's approval was what mattered. And so one of the things that happened to Jeremiah in this time of persecution towards him was the king had him. He was actually, they said, why don't you just kill him? And so he was actually thrown into a cistern, which is a deep pit, basically. So we're going to talk about being in the pit tonight. And he was in a pit filled with mud. So again, some of these stories that I hear puts things into perspective for my life now. When I think of some of the things that I worry about, I'm like, I can't imagine being left in a pit in the mud, basically to starve to death. That was kind of the point, was he was just going to be helpless in this pit. And so he actually, Lamentations, so we're in chapter 3, and it's actually his cries out, lamenting to God about his situation, and so I want to read some of it for you. I should have put my glasses on, but I want to read some of it to you, and then you're going to see. So it's going to sound a little sad at first, but we're going to tie into really the whole message of this week. And so he's, oh gosh, y'all, I really cannot read. Oh goodness. Okay, so this is Lamentations 3:15. It says, "He has filled me with bitter herbs and giving me gall to drink." So this is Jeremiah saying this about God, okay? He has broken my teeth with gravel. This is this is Old Testament, so this is kind of hard, hardcore. He has trampled me in the dust. I have been deprived. So verse 17, I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten what prosperity is. And so I underlined that really big. And you can read up until this. There's so many other ways that he describes his pain and his suffering. And it's pretty intense. So you can go to Lamentations chapter 3, 1 through 17 and read all the ways that he describes. It's really our version, or a very intense version of our why God? Did you forget about me here? Sometimes we ask that question, right? Hey, Cindy. And so what I love about this is, what I don't love is that question. I've been deprived of peace. I have forgotten what prosperity is. And how many times so basically I'm hopeless. I've forgotten what good has happened because I have been robbed of my peace through all of this. Where are you, God? Right? And how many times can we relate to that, y'all? How many times have we asked those questions? Maybe not that deeply, but how many times has, I know for me, you all know by now, most of you know part of my story, where I felt a lot of that at the close of a career. Joy, some of you on here were in that business with me. And, this close of this career, this chapter, this thing that really I had made a huge part of my identity. Hey, Lois. And so, it's I don't even I just feel lost. Why take this away? Why strip this? And I've forgotten what prosperity is. When I hear that, I'm just oh my goodness. And, but this is the cool part. So that's verse 17, right? And then he goes on to say, so I say my splendor is gone and all that I had hoped from the Lord. All right. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them and my soul is downcast with me. So how many of you can relate to feeling just hopeless, in the pit, you can't see a way out? How many of you have ever felt sometimes you just don't even know what to pray sometimes, right? I know I've had conversations with friends and just been in seasons of my life that I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't even know what to pray about right now. But this is the part I love. So he says all that, but then in verse 21, he says, y'all, I so can't see right now, and this is really throwing this off, but yet this I call to mind, but the big B, but this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassion never fails. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. And then in verse 26, it is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And so I love that. Like, can you just picture like being in this pit? No, you have no idea how you're going to get out. You're stuck in mud. Not only are you just in this pit, but you're in like sinking in mud, basically. And you're thinking of all these things and you're feeling hopeless, but you're reminded of God's faithfulness and you claim that and you declare it. And when I read this tonight, I was like, this is like what we're doing this week, is being reminded of his faithfulness in those times. And that's exactly what Jeremiah was doing here. And I just love that. And so a couple of the things that stood out to me, and I'd love to hear what you all have to say about it when I can actually read your comments. So if I miss any tonight, I'm sorry. I will go back and read them when I have my glasses on. But a couple of the things that I loved was that verse 26. And again, if you're just catching in and you don't know where I'm talking about, I'm in Lamentations 3. And I was going over verse 26 where Jeremiah says it's good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And our pastor kind of like equated that to, we have to learn to sit in the pit. And I love that because something that I really had to learn this year through transition and, always being super duper goal oriented, success driven, like just couldn't stop, just had to go, and always be achieving something. And when I felt like that wrestle at the end of almost a year ago, and I was like, I just feel stuck and I don't know why, and I did not like being in that place. And I just remember every answer pointed to wait. But when you are somebody that is performance driven, and you also have always surrounded yourself with that, so much of what we talk about, even personal growth type things, are all about, like, you hear people that saying like good things come to those who wait. Like you see people marking them out and it's like, no, good things come to those who work their tails off or whatever. And while there is a time and a place for that, and yes, I do believe that we were designed to do good works, I do believe that there is a time to wait, and we don't hear that enough, but it is in scripture everywhere about being still and letting him fight for us. So it doesn't mean that necessarily that we just sit around and do nothing. I mean, we're still showing up for our day-to-day lives. We're still showing up for our families and our kids and our friends and our jobs. But what I would encourage you and what I've seen really transpire over this year for me personally is being okay in that stillness. And I would just encourage you that if you feel any tug, whether it's in your job or in a relationship or just anything, hey, Whitney, just anything that you're feeling like resistance, listen to that voice. And sometimes it is the best thing that we can do to just be still. And I know that seems so hard, especially in the world that we live in today. But how can we expect to hear from God, if we're not getting still long enough to be quiet and do that? And I'm speaking from experience here because this is really the first year that I didn't know what else to do. I was reading all these books and everything, and I just was like, I don't know what to do. And finally it was like, well, why don't I go to God about it? Like God being like, hey, why don't you come to me? Like, why don't you get still with me? And so, what kind of a question I had to ask myself was, with it being okay and sitting in the pit, is, how many times do we, like, when we really get in that stillness, because being still with him is where we really get our truth. And remember, we've talked in here about like really like what God says about you, like not what somebody else says, not what the world says, not what other people's expectations of you are. Who does he say that you are? But in order for us to know that, we have to know the truths. And in order for us to know the truths, we have to be still, and we have to get in that place where, sometimes we're in the waiting period. Because I can tell you, when things that were going really, really good in my life, hey Donna, sorry, I'm so sorry. If I'm not acknowledging things, I can't see very well tonight. I've got to put my glasses on. But anyway, how many times do we really go to God when everything's going great? I'll be honest, the times that I really do get into his truths the most are the times where I am in a pit, because it's just kind of like a natural wiring to go to him when we need things, right? When we are, challenged, and that's great. And he wants us to do that. So what I'm saying in that is, how about if we change our perspective when we are in the pit, instead of thinking like, oh gosh, like, where are you, God? Like, hey, be excited to have that time, because that will draw you closer to him. And that, there were times earlier in this year where I just put a pause on everything else except for like having to put food on my table for my people. Like, really, like, I put a hold on so much, other than just like showing up and making sure my people were fed and dressed and getting where they needed to be. And everything else in between, like when my kids were in Mother's Day out, I seriously was like in the Word so much, like more than I ever have been. And it was seriously the most peace I've ever felt in my whole life. And so I really learned to enjoy being in a place of rest, but still feeling like I could show up powerfully, like not feeling lazy or anything like that. But like, we have to be able to take that rest and be okay sitting in the pit, as my pastor said tonight. I just love that. And so, again, just wanted to encourage you with that story, because it's so piggybacked off of our action step for this week, and being reminded of the times that we have seen how faithful he is. And even when we can't understand why we're in a pit, or why someone we love is in a pit, he always works it out together for good, right? And another scripture that was referenced to that I thought was so good was Psalm 42. So Psalm 40, 2, not, you get what I'm saying. So Psalm 42, he lifted me out of the pit. Okay. So that was from David in the Psalms, but cause David was also pit, like, and so he's saying, how good is our God? He lifted me. He heard my cry. He lifted me out of the pit. And what really stood out to me, sometimes we can hear scriptures, but we say them or hear them so fast, we don't get the full message. Because I could say that real quick, like, oh yeah, made it to the other side, right? But what's it really saying? He lifted me. And thanks to my pastor for this, because I missed this, but it really hit home tonight. He lifted me. I did not have to climb out. Okay. So it wasn't, oh yeah, I got out of the pit because I am super tough and I climbed my way out of there. No, he lifted me. God lifted him out of the pit. Who is the one that fights for us? It's not ourselves, y'all. It's him. And so, I don't know, that message just had me super fired up tonight. It is late, but I did not want to put it off because it was just so, like, I was just eating up every bit of it, and I thought it was so good. And I just wanted to get on here and share because it really, really went so hand in hand with our message for the week, okay? So I hope that blesses you whenever you watch this. If you're watching it tonight, hopefully it brings you some peace before you go to bed. If you're catching it later, hopefully it gives you that peace and just the reminder of who fights our battles for us, and that, there's always another side to that pit. Let me see if I can see what you're saying, Donna. It's a lot of work just taking care of our family. Yeah, it is. It is. That's a big calling, and we sometimes, I think, really discount how big of a calling that is. But it's a lot of sacrifice, in terms of taking care of family. And it is a big job and it's a big blessing. So absolutely. So wanted to share those with you all tonight. I am going to be posting our giveaway, what we're going to be doing as a giveaway tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But I am actually going to give you ladies until Sunday to get your takeaways in, because I really, really want you all to have enough time to like really truly get to do the journaling and reflecting. And I know sometimes the week can be busy and a lot of people are watching videos later. And so I really just wanted you all to have the opportunity to, have more time than just one day to like post your takeaways. Maybe tomorrow night or maybe even Saturday morning would be a good time where you can do like your reflecting and everything on his faithfulness. But I just couldn't help but share. Hey, Ashley, Grab basically just told Pastor Brady's sermon from tonight because it was so good. I thought it was so good. So anyway, if you're just hopping on, that's what this was about. But anyway, check it out if you want to go read through that. It's Lamentations 3. You can just see where Jeremiah was in the pit and was just, again, referred to not having any peace, right? Like, where are you? Like, why am I in this situation? But being reminded of his faithfulness. So it's beautiful. I love it. I hope that you ladies are enjoying, being reminded of those times this week as you're doing your action step. And just let me know, like, what's working for you, what's not working. Like, y'all are all welcome to post in this group. This is for everybody. So if it has anything to do with, obviously having to do with what we're talking about, right? But if it's having to do with, you need a prayer request or feedback on like this whole process and journey, I'd love hearing from you guys. So have an awesome night, ladies. Thanks for tuning in. Those of you who stayed up late and watched through the end. And let me know any takeaways or any other, I'd love to hear any other stories that inspire you from the word around this topic too. So always love hearing more of those. All right, girls, I'm going to go shower now and get in the bed, and I will see you all on Monday live, but stay tuned tomorrow for our giveaway for the week. All right. Love y'all. Bye.